Picture this, a global investment guru who's dissected over 15,000 companies spills the beans on where the money is headed. From AI's seismic shift in energy and healthcare to India's manufacturing boom and MENA's region untapped potential. Daniel unpacks trends that could 10x your returns. Want to know the red flags, like aggressive accounting that could tank your next deal? This conversation will be your edge. All this and more coming right now. Here we go. Hey, welcome to another episode of Making Billions. I'm your host, Ryan Miller, and today I have my dear friend, Daniel Nikic. Daniel is a global investment research expert and founder of Coherent Research. He's analyzed more than 15,000 companies in sectors like AI, software, and data, helping venture capitalists and high net worth individuals and entrepreneurs to make informed investment decisions. So what does this mean? Well, it just means that Daniel is a leading expert who is highly sought after to help venture firms to stay ahead of the economy, and he's about to share his opinions to help you and I do the same. So Daniel, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. Big fan of Making Billions and also a fellow Canadian, eh?
Yeah, so that's right.
Great to talk to a fellow Canadian Canuck.
Yeah, the chosen frozen or whatever we might be, but it's good to have you, brother. And I'm really excited to have you and your analysis on the market. So let's jump right into it, man. You pay attention to the market. You've analyzed thousands of companies. You're really getting a good feel for this. I'm curious, just from your opinion, what are you seeing in the market right now? Where are some nice investment opportunities that are popping up?
Okay, well, I would first say that investment market's changed a lot since 2021. I think ChatGPT really hit the market hard in terms of the industry as a whole with venture capital and also startups. And I think we're going back to a lot of necessities. So I think energy is always going to be important when you look at investments, especially with AI, because you need the data centers. And of course, who's going to back up these AI companies because it takes a lot of energy. I always will say necessities such as water. I think water is always going to be important. If you look at countries such as Australia, they have a big need for water. Or if you look at the Middle East and even Africa, when you look at the populations, there's a huge market there. And as mentioned, AI, of course, that's the big word today. And I would say healthcare. As we know, healthcare is always going to need to be innovated. We like it or not, that's just how it is. And we've seen how much it's changed with technology. And I think in all sectors and related to healthcare, it could be patient care, radiology, med tech, it could be hardware, everything. I think that's going to be ever growing market. And I think that's definitely a market that if someone has a good company in that can succeed, it can be amazing. And I would say the world's changing quite a bit from, let's just say 30 years ago in terms of economics, because 30 years ago, let's be quite open, America and Canada, and I would say Western Europe was pretty much the center of growth in economics. And I would add Japan. Let's not forget Japan. But lately, we've seen a change in the past 30 years with China, India, of course. I would also say even the Middle East, especially what's going on with Saudi Arabia and Saudi Vision 2030.
You mentioned that you're looking at AI. There's been a lot of changes over the last 30 years. What are you seeing as far as some of the larger impacts that AI is making? Maybe you can unpack that a little bit.
In my opinion, I think AI is replacing bot work. So what I mean, the repetitive work that doesn't include too much insight. So it could be the copy paste work. And yes, it is going to get rid of a lot of jobs, but it's also going to create a lot of new jobs because someone has to audit this AI. And I would say we're in the augmented AI stage. So it still needs human interaction. So it's not like I have an AI tool that can do whatever. I don't need to manage it or anything. No, we're not at that stage, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I don't think we're still there. But I also will say it's a hot trend in a way, and there's a lot of fear missing out. So some companies are like they're AI, but it's like, I'm pretty sure that's not AI. It's just an Excel formula that I could have done in 2002 in high school. So I think that's one thing that a lot of investors have to be careful about. And I think that goes back to when investing in a company, you have to do the due diligence to really know what is this tech.
Brilliant. You help a lot of venture capital and private equity. You help a lot of these companies. How are you seeing the evolution of VC business models? What's going on there?
I would say that it's going to be less employees within a fund, in my opinion, because I've talked to a few companies that are dealing with analysis, finance, research, and et cetera. Just with ChatGPT, which is generative AI, which is a great tool. It's not the most amazing. It will replace a human totally, but you just see how much of an impact it had in several industries. And I think VCs are going to be smaller, but I also think startups are going to be small. We're not going to see a 10-member startup team that's going to be seed stage. It could probably be 5 or 4. But I also think that VCs, if they're going to deal with something really innovative, especially with AI or deep tech or even quantum, even though I think we're really early in terms of quantum, they're going to have to be patient. You're not going to get returns probably in 3 to 4 years because there's a lot of R&D. And with VCs, it's changed a lot. We see a lot of VCs that get established and it's their first fund, and then the second fund, they usually fundraise right after. But we see if they're really successful with their third fund, if they can raise a third fund, because that's where you see the return on investments. So I see smaller teams with VCs, but I also see that they're going to use more and more technology to analyze their potential companies that they want to invest in. So pipeline companies and assist their portfolio companies.
Brilliant. And so that's what we're seeing right now. Now, a lot, and especially in this industry, a lot of people come to us and folks like yourself to help extrapolate where you see the current trends going. So from your opinion, where do you see all the market opportunities? Where are you seeing the bright spots?
Well, let's start with manufacturing. I'll start with manufacturing because I think we're talking a lot about software, but manufacturing is always important. And I think I see a big shift from China to India as we see a lot of negotiations there. I think India is a hot place, especially with IoT. And if you see, probably in the past 40 years, I'm just going to use Sprint Canada as an example. I remember we're dealing with customer service. You're dealing with someone in Bangalore, New Delhi, or somewhere. So already then you see a trend going on with the tech capabilities. So I definitely see in terms of India being a manufacturing powerhouse with time. And why I see a trend there, I think hardware is going to be more and more important. We see with semiconductors, AI chips, hence NVIDIA. Whoever invested in NVIDIA in the past few years make good money, for example. And I also see in terms of geography, I would say the MENA region. I was in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and they're pushing government initiatives to diversify their economy. Initially, when we think of Saudi Arabia, we think of oil, right? But they were investing in sustainability. And I remember I was talking to a local city. I'm like, you guys are the last person who should be thinking about solar energy. And they're like, we got so much time. I'm like, true, but you guys got oil. So I see them looking into that, healthcare, education, and they're really trying to push AI. But what's really interesting about the MENA region, and I would say also Africa, is demographics. They're having a growing population and the youth. So when you think of it, when children are born in today's world, they already know what technology is. It's not like, say, for example, I'm born in the 80s. We're used to playing outside and stuff. They already know, like, they're getting stuff quick, technology and stuff. So I would say ag tech for sure is always going to be a hot topic for sure because it's food, and how to innovate in terms of production, data centers, hence AI and energy, as mentioned before.
Brilliant. What are you seeing as far as some of the local companies? I know there was formerly known as Facebook. We're now at Meta. What are you seeing as far as a lot of the local competition as well?
So in terms of, I think these big companies, they're always going to try to innovate. Like Meta is a public company. I'll take them for example. And they've acquired WhatsApp, Instagram to always keep on growing. But I think with Metaverse, some people might have think they released it too early. I think it's the beginning of something because in my opinion, a lot of people want to escape. Hence video games. Why was it so cool? Video games. Or we look up to athletes if you're into sports because you fantasize, I cheer for this team. Even though you're not playing for them, it's like an escape. And I think with Metaverse, it's like another world. And I think that's going to be very popular, hence social media. So I think what they're doing at Meta is something for the future. I think that's going to be very impactful in the next few years because in my opinion, yeah, social media is very popular, but it's not going to be the same in the next 20 or 30 years. But I also think authenticity is going to be important too. With a lot of these companies, more and more, what's the source? What's this? We saw with these generative AI search engines. What's the source? What's real? Everyone wants to know, is it true or false? Hence deepfakes. We see with AI, you see videos, you're like, did this politician, did this celebrity say this? And they're like, no, I wasn't even in this country when this happened. I was in, they said it happened in London, UK, but they're like, no, I was in Miami, Florida. Here's a picture. So I think cybersecurity is definitely going to be trending. So the companies that deal with cybersecurity is going to be more and more important. And I think overall, they're going to be a continuation of these, I would say, Magna 7 companies or FAMGA, as someone would like to say. They're going to continue acquiring companies with innovative technology to keep on growing, as you know, with public companies. But for example, there's interesting companies such as Coherent that I've noticed in the Middle East, which is like Uber Eats, but it deals with everything. Like you need someone to help clean your apartment. Boom, you can order someone there and it gives you ratings. Like, and I think right now it's popular there, but it's going to expand huge.
Brilliant. And obviously do your own homework. This is just opinion based, and we obviously can't guarantee whether we own or not own any of these, but we're just letting you know the things that we're paying attention to. Is that fair?
Yes.
Awesome. So, as we round third base, I absolutely love, this is just the quick formula. I'm curious, just from all of your experience, if you have maybe 3 or 4 different unfair advantages, just from your experience on analyzing companies, what are you seeing as far as what they should pay attention to, maybe some cautionary tales and maybe some other ones?
Okay. This is based on my opinion in terms of what's important to me. I would say finance. Accounting is very important because when it's investors investing in a company, they have to understand once you give someone money, you don't have control over it. There's no guarantee. And I think you should definitely look into their finance, how they do their cash management, pay attention to how they expense their stuff. And for example, I saw one company, they put immigration costs as R&D. And I remember doing due diligence on them. I'm like, hold on, I'm an immigrant too. You can't do your immigration papers as R&D. As much as everybody would like to expense it, you really can't put it as R&D. And I think that's very important, especially if we're going to deal with AI deep tech companies. What is the actual R&D cost? Because someone can be like, R&D cost is marketing, which isn't. So I think that's important also for a founder. You have to know your finance, just basic accounting. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's a profit business. It's not a nonprofit. I think that's very important.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I've seen, and I'm sure you'd agree that if you get an entrepreneur or somebody that is asking for capital, and for those of you who may not understand accounting, I was shocked when I started. Thought it was black and white science. It's not. There's a lot of gray areas that allow you to estimate. But you can push it too far and get your wings clipped a little bit, as you should, I think. And so if you see someone just pushing, redlining, we'll say like an engine, they're just pushing it to the limit, if not breaking it over the line into illegal areas, just be careful of aggressive accounting. It's not even illegal, but just aggressive accounting. That's why in startups, and Daniel, I'm sure you would agree, is when someone throws up a financial model, we know, especially early stage, they're just your best guess, right? But really what we want to know is, I want to understand and have the opportunity to review your model and ask you questions of where I want to explore your assumptions and see how aggressive you are. If you're too aggressive, then it's probably not good. Aggressive in accounting. Be aggressive in the pursuit of your goals, but not in your accounting. And so, talk to your financial advisor and your accountants to do that. But it is a little bit of a yellow flag when I see aggressive accounting. And as long as everything rolls out perfect, we'll be able to be the next Amazon in 2.5 months. And you're like, I don't know, man, that's a little aggressive. Anything to add to that?
I think when it comes to financial modeling in general, if a founder or someone from the team's presenting it to an investor, they have to be prepared for a devil's advocate. So someone's always going to question each assumption, and you should back it up with research. So someone says, why do you think this is going to grow? Well, the market's growing this much, say 12% per year. We think we can get that 1% growth, or et cetera. Or for example, if they say, why do you think your sales is going to grow so much? Well, these are my pipeline customers. Let's just say worst case scenario, 25% are definitely going to sign a contract with us. Boom, we can reach this at least. And I know for sometimes when dealing with financial models, maybe this goes back to being a very, let's just say conservative. It's good to have, I would say, optimistic, realistic, and a pessimistic driver. So in other words, if someone can just like alternate or pretty much use a sensitivity analysis to adjust a financial model. So for example, say they can put in the financial model, I'll go with option A, and it gives like the optimistic and all the calculations are done automatically. And then they can go with option B, it's automatically done to make it more realistic option. And then C could be pessimistic. Just explain it in simpler terms. I think it's better to play safe, because when you're dealing with finances, a lot of times investors, they can get turned off very easily if they see something they don't like, because they're getting bombarded with so many potential investments. And at the end of the day, I think, yes, finance is very important. It's not the key to make a decision, yes or no, because obviously it comes down to other aspects, which I'll discuss in a bit. But I also think it's very important in making the final decision.
Brilliantly said, man. It's been said before on this show that it's okay if an investor finds fault in your conclusions, but they should never find fault in how you arrive there. And that echoes or adds credence to what you said, is doing your own research and actually showing and backing it up, not hands to the heavens praying that you'll get best case scenario or optimistic scenario, but you're actually saying, hey, we strongly stand behind this. We've really done our homework. And whether you agree or not, that's your prerogative, but you won't disagree that we really did some sound research on getting there. And that tends to really turn a pessimistic investor around. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, what are other aspects when analyzing a company? What are some other things that really tell a lot in the early stage?
I would say in the early stage, it's very important to look at the team, because sometimes the companies do not have much revenue to base an analysis on to invest, or it might be as key of a factor in terms of, because it might be just potential pipeline, right? So team. And I would say management. Sometimes investors want to see if the founder is a serial entrepreneur or is it the first time. And interesting enough, if they have failures, because some might say if they've gone through a failure, they know how to deal with stress. I think the most inspirational people in any industry, it could be from art to sports to business, are those who know how to manage stress. If you've gone through failure, you know how to manage stress. It's usually like, oh, I've gone through this. It can't be any worse the second time. At least I know what to expect. And I think that's important. And also, is the team good? What's their experience? And I would also say the idea. How did this team come with this idea for this product and service? Is it just a copycat? Because if the team's very passionate about the idea of the product or service that they're selling, they're going to be able to deal with the volatile, let's just say, lifespan of building a successful company.
Brilliant. And what about, say, more of the things that can't be measured? I've heard it says that not everything that can be measured counts, and not everything that counts can be measured. And so I'm looking for those things that count that can't be measured. I mean, what would maybe be a third one that you can add for people to explore?
I think purpose. I think does the idea have a purpose to make something better, innovative? So I know based on my experience, a lot of founders, if they say they came up with this idea due to something personal that's happened to them, or it could be from work or personal life, an investor is very intrigued, because if you can tell your story well, it's going to intrigue people. And hence, that's why in today's world, why do we like movies? Why do we like TV shows? Because of the story that they're telling most of the time. And if founders has a purpose, they're going to push it so much just to make it succeed, no matter what. Their goal isn't money. Their goal is to make this product go into the market and make a big difference in the global world.
Brilliant. So before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience? Any ways to reach out to you, or anything at all? Sure.
I will say this, always do your own research first, because everyone has their own way of looking to things. For example, some people might be really intrigued by crypto. Some will be like, I don't care. You can never get me into it. So everyone, and you have to go with your gut, I think too. That's one thing I would say, kind of instincts. But to reach out to me, feel free to check me out on my website at danielnikic.com. And you can contact me there or check me out on LinkedIn. I'm quite responsive. And I would also say that in general, in terms of research, you have to be curious if you want to invest and grow. It's kind of addictive in a way.
Brilliant. So just to summarize everything we talked about, just be careful of aggressive to even fraudulent accounting when you're doing your analysis. Really make sure that you have someone, a CPA, someone that really can understand what are you looking at that can make sense to say, all right, this one smells funny. I always think of the Matrix with the green things, and it looks like gibberish to some, but others, they can see everything. And so you want to have that person if that's you. But either way, make sure that you have someone that can sniff out any type of aggressive to fraudulent accounting before you do any of that. The other one is explore the team. Daniel mentioned that you just got to understand, is this personal for you? What is that? How did the team come together? How did you overcome issues? Really explore the dynamics and test that relationship, because a lot of times that relationship is going to come. That's one of the main reasons that causes businesses to fail, other than the inability to raise capital. And then finally, just your purpose. Is there something that pulls people in? Customers, new employees, partnerships? Is there a compelling reason for this company to exist other than just making money? Yes, I believe you can have purpose and profit. You do these things, and you too will be well on your way in your pursuit of making billions.